It's another Shovelhead episode here on Butt Crack Cycles. If you are new to this channel, my name is Paul, and this is my YouTube channel. Today we're going to go continue working on my Shovelhead. I tore it apart on the last Shovelhead episode, pulled the primary off, inner and outer. We've got a leaking main shaft seal to fix, and I'm also going to isolate my primary in this episode. I think that's probably the smart thing to do, and will end up leaving me with a primary setup that's probably more simple and more reliable than using the the full flow oiling like how the factory did. So yeah, obviously it's raining. We've had a little break in this storm. This is the starts of what we're gonna get from Hurricane Helene. I don't think it'll be too bad here, but I don't know. They're calling for 6 to 8 inches of rain tomorrow. Anyways, we're gonna walk into the little shop and get started working. Also, one last thing. If you want to support this channel, I've got merchandise like this shirt that I'm wearing right now. You can grab it on my web store, buttcrackcycles.com. Alright, so yeah, as much as I would like for y'all to buy my merchandise, really what needs to happen here is to not give me any money. Don't buy t-shirts, please. Most of this episode was filmed like before, during, and immediately after Hurricane Helene, which has just totally decimated Greater Appalachia. Upstate South Carolina, Western North Carolina, and Eastern Tennessee are just in shambles right now. This is the worst storm that we have basically ever seen in like the last 100 years. I made a video about this earlier in the week, and Chimney Rock is like the closest place to me. It's an hour roughly away northwest from me, maybe a little closer, honestly. It's somewhere really near and dear to me. It's where my wife and I got engaged. We spent a lot of time there. We go up there for like day trips a lot. I was just there like a month or so ago, and that place is just destroyed right now. Asheville is doing bad. Everywhere is really doing bad. I wish I could help everyone, but I can't help everyone. So I'm picking Chimney Rock as sort of my like near and dear fundraiser place. Anyways, all of that to say, if you want to help those folks out in that community out, I've got some stickers for sale right now. They're the Dick Rock stickers. It's stupid. It's funny. It's hey, Chimney Rock looks like a big dick rock. Anyways, they're for sale on my web store, buttcrackcycles.com. 2 stickers for $6. 100% of the money is going to go towards relief. Don't buy my t-shirts, buy the Dick Rock stickers, and we're going to get that money to people who need it. Thank you. All right, let's carry on with the episode. I'm sure someone's going to bitch and moan about, well, I just want to see how to take apart a Shovelhead and replace this, that, and the other, and you're just begging for money. Well, that's what I have to say to you. So the first thing we need to start with is pull in this old main shaft seal. You can see it's leaking oil there, right here at the bottom, and down underneath the stator there's oil in there too. This was leaking an excessive amount of engine oil into my primary and was screwing all kinds of things up. It was making me have an oil leak in the primary, and I'm pretty sure it was making my clutch slip. Obviously I haven't been able to test that yet since it's all still apart, but we're gonna grab some tools and yank this old seal out. Alright, so maybe this isn't exactly the right way to pull one of these seals, but I've had pretty good success pulling lip style seals like this in the past by doing what I'm about to do. Which is very carefully drill through the seal. And then run a couple of screws down into your holes again, being careful not to go too far. I actually had a little slide hammer with a set of vice grips on the end of it. I don't know what happened to it, but we're gonna try just some vice grips. But it is coming. I've got the seal kind of started coming out. I'm gonna take a chisel and a hammer. And just kind of distort it. See if that makes it a little easier to pull. Now it doesn't have quite as much surface area grabbing. There we go. Nice. And pull the spacer out. Get this nice and dry. In order to put in our new oil seal and our new spacer. But first, I wanted to talk a second about this oil seal. So I'm going to grab the camera and we'll talk about that. So the oil seal on this bike was installed like this, with the spring and the open part of the seal facing out. And from what I understand, this is the way the parts manual shows it, and everything that I've been able to read and check online, that is the way that Harley installed pretty much all of these on a wet primary, and that's the correct way to install it for a wet primary. If this bike had a belt primary, it would be flipped around so that the flat back part of the seal would be facing out. I have heard some people say that when they isolate these primaries, that they will install them that way, with the flat part facing out. It's kind of weird to me that they went with the lip facing out from the factory. You know, usually on a lip seal like this, you face the hollow part towards the oil that you want to stop from flowing. And I would think you want to keep all the oil inside of the engine except for what you're putting in via the chain oil or that comes out of the oil pump. So I think I'm actually going to try this with it going with the lip seal with the open part facing in towards the crankcase, and with the flat part facing out as if this was a belt primary, since we're isolating this. And I think I want to try and keep all the oil in the engine as much as possible. With that being said, I've also read on a lot of forums, a lot of guys have said it doesn't matter. Put it in either way. It'll seal up just fine either way. So I don't know. I would say y'all tell me what to do, but by the time you watch this video, this seal will already be in there. Alright, so you can see what I did was I just started the seal onto the spacer and pushed them both on the shaft. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn the camera on for that part. And I didn't want to disturb anything, so I didn't want to redo it just for the sake of video. I only have the one seal. And then we're going to use this tool. This is a Jim's tool. There's a part number DS 196047. And basically I just use that spacer to kind of keep it all centered. And now that you can kind of start pushing your seal in, Flip it around. I'm sure you could probably do this with like a socket or a piece of pipe or something. I didn't pay very much money for this tool, and if y'all have watched this channel long enough, you know that I like having the right tool for the job. Alright, seems pretty solid all the way around. Kind of just, you see me running my finger around the edge of the seal, just making sure it doesn't feel proud at any spot. And then all right, I think we're in there like swimwear. Sorry if I stuck my head in the picture some. So now that we've gotten the sprocket shaft sealed up, our next order of business is messing here with the inner primary housing to do the actual isolation. While we're here, I'm going to drive this bearing out. I somehow ordered 2 of them. I don't know why. 9040 is the right part number on mine. Of course, refer to your manual. But as we flip this over, we can see 1, 2, 3 ports for the factory oil and suction setup. So what we're going to do here is this one, which was our actual drip oiler, we're going to turn that into a vent, so that one can get left alone. We'll put a hose on that and just vent it to atmosphere. Our other 2 right here and here, those need to get plugged. It's going to be really hard to see this on camera. This last one I just pulled out, this hole right here, looks like there's some crud or some silicone jammed up in there. And grab a little pick or something, or maybe take the rubber blow nozzle and shoot that out. I will note that this primary cover had a lot of silicone in places that should have been O-rings and such. You can see it like right there. It's all been siliconed up. I'm not a fan of silicone. A lot of people will put silicone on stuff. I think it's a band-aid. If a shop manual calls for silicone, it'll tell you, but generally an O-ring or a gasket on a clean mating surface that's square is all you really need. In my experience with engines, silicone tends to get in places it don't belong and causes way more problems. Flipping this over, we'll drive this bearing and the seal behind it. There's a seal on the other side of the primary. Just like that. So there's your seal and there's your bearing. So this is what I'm going to use to plug these holes. Like I said earlier, we're going to plug 2 of them and leave the chain dripper as our vent. Put a little pipe dope on them, pipe tape, whichever, and put them in. And we're going to install one right here, right there, and the other one right over here. Just like that. Alright, so now that we've got the back side of the primary cover blocked off, the next thing we need to worry about is getting these oil lines on the engine and into the oil tank, getting all that resituated. So I'm going to show you all what needs to happen on that. All right, so here we are. We're looking at sort of the, your back side of the engine where your oil pump and all that jazz is. This one right here went over to the primary chain oiler. So that one's going to get plugged, and then we'll just use the hose as a vent, which I'll put a new hose on it. Get that out of the way. So that needs to get plugged. And working through the rest of the oil lines, this one right here is your oil supply from the tank. Your next one over is your oil supply back to the tank. And your one up here is your vent to the tank. This one has, if you can see it right there, a T in it. Let me see if I can get some more light down in there. So we'll remove that T and we'll just run straight up to the tank. And our last oil line is kind of tucked deep down in there. It's this one way back here behind the oil pressure sending unit. That one is the return from the primary. So we're going to need to pull that one off as well and plug it too. I will also note, obviously, this bike has these chintzy screw-on braided, these aren't actual like JIC braided oil lines. This is just like a cover with these little screw-on end caps. I think I'm just going to go ahead and pull all of these off and replace all of these. All right, shut the shop and head back inside, order some more parts. Like I said, we're missing that seal for the back of the primary. Came in the chicken coop to get some eggs, but looking in the nesting box, looks like they didn't lay today. They're maybe ticked off about the rain. There's Chompy the rooster. I just walked past him. Yeah, we're missing a few parts and such. I'm gonna try and find a solution for the oil lines on that. It'd be sweet if somebody made an actual braided line kit. Maybe where one side is NPT and the other side is JIC. I guess I could probably make my own kit up. I could probably run to my local industrial supply house that sells and makes hoses and probably make something like that. But yeah, we'll jump back on this job tomorrow because I ain't working on anything else. Not with this weather. All right, so it's a couple of days later. Everything y'all saw so far was shot last Thursday, and then the hurricane came in. It's now Monday. Kenneth was out of school Friday, and he's out of school today. Say hey, Kenneth.
Hi.
So,
football face.
Yep, football face. So I got a little helper today. I'm gonna come back out here and keep working on the Shovelhead. Some chicken poop on your football?
No. It's just the acorn with ants in it.
Oh, that is kind of gross. Anyways, we're gonna go on the shop and work. Come on, Kenny.
Okay.
So before we go any further, we're gonna take the oil plug loose out of the oil bag, and I'm just gonna safety wire a funnel up to it and drain it in a drain pan. Hey, can you get me a 3/4 wrench?
Okay.
Yeah, from the toolbox.
Okay.
Thank you. Send my little helper to get me a wrench. Oh, well, that is a 3/4 wrench. Is there a big one?
No. This is the only one.
Are you sure?
Yeah?
Let's go look together. There's one right there. Thanks. I've got the oil drained out of it. I'm sure we're still going to make a little bit of a mess taking some of these lines off. I took a couple of pictures with the cell phone, and now I'm just going to take a piece of paper and just make myself a quick rudimentary drawing just to make sure I put everything back where it goes. Alright, so I've gotten my little cheat sheet here. I would suggest you do the same thing. Y'all probably see me write stuff down and use paper shop manuals a lot on this channel. I'm not that old, I'm 35, but I definitely I grew up more in a print world than I did a digital world, and so physical stuff like this makes a lot more sense to me than trying to type this into a tablet or, I don't know, make a note in my phone or whatever. I guess I'm slowly getting old. I expect this one to make the biggest mess out of all of them, seeing as it's coming from the bottom of the oil tank. Can you get me, look down there in the nuts and bolts bin and get me a bolt? Perfect, thank you. Kenny brought me a bolt, and we're gonna plug this hose off and just tighten the clamp back down on it. I'm probably just gonna go ahead and pull the oil bag out of the bike. I mean, it's basically all the way taken off anyways. There's like one mount holding it on. That way we can get to all the fittings on this to swap this over. I ordered a kit to do this as like JIC braided lines. So I'm gonna turn the camera off and just keep taking these lines off. If you're doing this yourself, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, make a cheat sheet, take a couple of pictures, make sure you know where everything goes, and then I'll put up a diagram later for the what needs to get plugged and what needs to get moved where in order to isolate the primary. But I'm gonna turn the camera off and keep working. There's all of our oil lines and the oil tank thrown in the floor there. This was probably definitely worth doing. These are real just kind of chintzy, and some of them, like this oil cooler line, was already leaking. I actually didn't realize that until now, so this is good. Anyways, I think pulling the oil tank off was the move here, and coming back over to the bike, you can see that it's now nice and wide open. This is a really good time too to do stuff like take a good look at your wiring. I mentioned this earlier, but pretty much all the wiring on this bike is brand new, but I still could do a better job of tidying some of this up, so I will do that. I did reuse a little bit of the old wiring, like this battery cable. It goes over to the starter solenoid, so I believe I'll probably take this opportunity to replace the cable. It's got a few little nicks and such in it. And there's a really good chance that I'm gonna go ahead and pull this transmission out too. There's a lot of slop in the shifter, and I think probably a under top plate rebuild will fix that. My guess is that the bushing inside the shifter pawl carrier is worn out. I maybe could get to that all with it still in the bike, but geez, I mean, we're like already here, so that'll probably be another episode. Kenneth, come hold this light for me.
I am.
Okay.
Come and get it.
Thank you. Hold it right there. All right, good job. So that's all of our oil lines off. I left this one back here. It's hard to see, but it's your one buried kind of down in there. That's just your crankcase vent. On this bike, it's just run over to oil the rear chain, the drive chain that goes out to your back tire. I went ahead and took that little rubber vent line off. And the next thing we need to deal with is this nipple here on the oil pump. I think I'm probably gonna just pull this pump cover. It's only these 3 bolts. And put this like on the vise or on the bench or something, because I think what I'm going to need to do is cut this off or pull it out and then drill and tap it. And I don't really want to do that while it's still on the bike, because I don't want to get a bunch of debris and shavings and such down into the oil pump. So there's our pump cover here on the workbench, and I'm probably actually just going to go ahead and plug the oil sending unit. You can see that it's been snipped off. It was never working on this bike, even when this bike had the full gauges, and I knew that wire was cut off. It's never bothered me, obviously, because this bike is, you know, like stripped down bobber, whatever you want to call it. So I'll probably just go ahead and plug that too while I'm here. And yeah, we'll figure something out here on this nipple real fast. Okay. We'll spray that down really good, let it soak for a few minutes, Kenny. Hose it down, and then take the hose over there and wash it off for me, will you?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. While Kenneth is doing that, I'm going to take this oil pump cover. Camera won't focus on it. There it goes. We're going to go down to one of my service trucks and put this in the vise and take this nipple right here out and get it drilled and tapped so we can plug it. actually just going to tap this 1/4 inch 20. I've got this nice set of old Winters Brothers taps and dies. I've got a bunch of these. Mike McGinnis gave these to me. He used to live across the street from the shop that me and my buddy Chris used to rent. So thanks, Mike. Hope you're looking down on me from up there, calling me a dink, wondering what I'm doing. Drink a beer in heaven for me, buddy. We'll blow through that with some air at the shop. Alright, so for the one we need to plug back here, which was this fitting, just pull this out with a wrench. And I'm using this style plug back there. It's a hex head on the back instead of the Allen socket. That way you can put it in a little extension like this. And excuse my head, I gotta see what I'm doing. Alright. You can get it started like so, because it's kind of down in a hole. Which is a pretty good song, by the way. So there's our oil pump cover. We've got that one plugged where the sending unit used to go. You don't have to do that, I just did it because I'm not using it. And then a 1/4 inch 20 plug in the top there from that hole that I tapped. It's a couple days later. I hadn't had any time to be out here working. Been pretty busy the end of this week, which is good. That means I'm making money. Anyways, I ordered a line kit. It's braided line, so I think this will look nice. And these are JIC on one side and NPT on the other. So I'll put that diagram up on the screen right now. And what we're going to do with these is take the plugs, or not the plugs, take these fittings rather. We've already plugged off everywhere that needs to be plugged, and then we're just going to follow the diagram and put the fittings in anywhere that we actually need oil lines to flow. I'm probably going to end up needing to get some more lines made to finish this installation, just because this bike has the oil cooler on the frame up there at the front. But installing all of this is going to be in part 2 of this episode. Like the title to this video says, this is part 1. The main reason for that is because of that transmission. That sprocket needs to get replaced. The nut holding the sprocket on wasn't even tight. And that shifter, the top plate shifter, has a ton of slop in it that I think something in there needs to be rebuilt. Probably the shifter pawl bushing in the carrier and that top plate probably needs to get replaced. And now's the time to do it while the rest of this stuff is all tore apart. That transmission is real easy to get out right now. So part 2 will be actually installing these lines, as well as got a big huge box of all the other parts and seals and gaskets to put this back together. You know, O-rings and gaskets and lock nuts and, you know, everything we need. Oil deflector plate that was missing behind the starter. Thanks, Terry. Terry Massey pointed that out. He's like, hey man, you're missing a deflector plate. I probably would have eventually caught that, but he put me onto it a lot sooner, so thanks, man. Anyways, yeah, I think this episode has probably gone on long enough. I feel like this has gotten y'all to a point where I've shown you how to replace that main sprocket shaft seal. We have shown you how to plug the actual back of the primary housing itself, and then talked about what to plug on the back of the oil pump and the back of the engine case. So really, if you're watching this and you're doing this by yourself, I don't want to say you don't need part 2, but if you don't want to wait for part 2, follow the diagram. It's pretty simple. I've been working off the same diagram I'm going to put up on the screen. Plus, I've kind of made my own diagram on that piece of paper earlier. Anyways, that's it for this episode. There's going to be a lot more Shovelhead content here on this channel over the next couple of months. Inadvertently, this bike has, I guess, turned into my fall and winter project again. Maybe come springtime of 2025, I will finally have this bike reliable enough where I can seriously go put some actual real miles on it. I don't want to say I'm frustrated with this bike. I mean, you know, any old motorcycle is going to need some TLC, but the wrench to ride ratio on this one is heavily skewed towards the wrench side. And I would really like to actually go ride this thing. I keep looking off camera at it. It's such a nice looking bike. And I think it's going to continue to get nicer and nicer, you know, like these oil lines will dress it up a little bit, and I'm going to clean up some more stuff while I'm in there, while I got it all apart. I just want the thing to be reliable. Like, I understand it's not an Evo. Someone's invariably going to say, well, if you want it to be reliable, throw it in the trash and buy an Evo. I understand I'm going to have to work on it, but I would like to ride this thing a little bit more, and I'd really like to take this on a camping trip. That was something I had planned for the fall with this bike, was to go do a motorcycle camping trip, but that may or may not happen at the rate that we're going. Okay, enough of me sitting out here griping. Today is actually the congregation show up in Charlotte, so I need to go get the iron head ready to go up there, get my camera ready to go up there, and etc. I'm gonna turn the camera off because going to a bike show sounds way more fun than what I'm doing right now. Okay, thanks y'all for watching. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.